Here it is. That nightmare you never thought had happened to you. All alone. Miles from anywhere. Somehow unharmed, but definitely in harm's way. If you want to get through this, if you want to get home, there's only one question you need to ask yourself. What would Les do?
Hello there, contestant. Welcome. I'm one of the producers on set, and they had me pull away for a few minutes to make this video. Again, so welcome, contestant who applied for the new TV show, Surviving the Biome. This isn't the official logo design, still working on it, but congratulations on making kind of the final cut here. We're kind of working on kind of last things on production, and we just wanted to kind of trim the field down. We're looking for 8 teams, and so we need to kind of do one more cutting board before we decide which 8 teams it's going to be. So we have a little bit of more work for you. We got your initial application. We liked what you had, but now we need you to go kind of the next step forward. So this little bit, or they just had me sit down to kind of talk to you about some of this last step here. So don't ever hesitate to ask if you have any questions. This is just kind of going through it very briefly, a tutorial, and then you can go back and watch it if you need to find out some more stuff. So real quick, congratulations again. You've been selected to compete on the upcoming television show, Surviving the Biome. All right, I'm not going to read all this here, and I apologize. I'm trying to figure out how to work this camera the best here. So basically, what you need to do is we're going to have 8 teams, and teams are going to look a little bit different, and then they're going to be dropped into 8 different spots all over the world. But they're going to be different environments, or what we call biomes. They're basically different environments based on their rainfall and temperature and all that stuff you learn from science class in high school. What you're going to need to do is just be able to survive. All you're going to be given is a machete, a metal pot, and the clothes on your back, which of course you will be able to choose what those are. No extra items in those clothing though. For legal reasons though, we want to make sure that we're not sending people to their death, and so we need to make sure that people are adequately prepared. All right. By adequately prepared, that means they know what they're getting themselves into. Obviously, you'll sign a legal waiver saying that you're not holding us responsible. We'll have medical teams nearby, but at the same time, it is mostly on you guys. And besides, the longer you guys last, the better the ratings. More people are going to watch. We want the show to last more than a week. So the final task that we need to ask you to get down to our final 8 is to basically create some sort of presentation that we, the producers, can look at and decide who is the most, prove that you're ready to be out there in the wilderness in your specific biome by doing some background research and thinking about what you're going to be out there with. So your job is to create that presentation. Now, you're not here with us in studio, so you're going to have to send us that presentation. So keep that in mind. It's got to be something that you can put electronically. All right. So just a couple things to talk about here. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you about 10 days or so to create this presentation. We're going to break it down in a couple areas, which I'll talk about in a second. You got to prove that you're ready to do this. And then what we're going to do is, based on that presentation, myself and the other producers are going to sit down and we're going to look at, and we have a little chart, which I'll show you in a minute, of how long we project you to survive. And we want to kind of pick the ones that are going to be the longest, because we want them to do well and be very prepared. It makes it a much more interesting show. And so, like I said, you'll be given one machete, a metal pot, and the clothes on your back. So you need to decide what you're going to do with the rest of the stuff that's going to be in your environment. So let's talk about some of the things. I'm not going to read every single word on here, but you're going to need, there's all different environment, 8 different locations. you need to know what kind of temperatures you're going to are placed into. Some places have really hot days and really cold nights, or are the temperatures about the same? We're not really sure what the exact date we'll start shooting. Kind of just depends on a couple other factors. So summer and winter months have different temperatures based on those things. What you're going to be given to, and you see there's a little link here that sends it to an evidence gathering sheet. This is just to help you organize. I highly, highly recommend having this with you. You can share it with your team. What it will look like is it will look like this here. And then you can, make a copy of this, and then you can share it with your friend or with your teammates, which tells you how to do that right here. And this is where you're going to record a lot of your research. You're going to record this here so that when you make your final presentation, you and your team are ready to go. So when it says on your evidence gathering sheet, it's all referencing to this part of this document right here. So, oops, a little too early on that one. All right, and you can see some of the rubric. I kind of broke it down on what we're going to be using to calculate and project how long you will survive. One of the first things you're going to need to do when you get into your biome is create some sort of shelter to protect yourself from the elements, the rain, the cold, predators. And so you're going to have to think about how you're going to build that. You're not going to be given a tent. You're going to have to build that. So you might want to look about how other organisms in that environment protect themselves. It's not always from the cold, but sometimes it's from the heat, depending on where you're from or where you're going, I mean. So then next thing is about talking about the organisms that are going to be around you. You're going to have to eat, all right? What kind of plants you're going to be able to eat, which ones are edible, which one you don't want to eat poisonous berries. That would be bad. Then think about, that would be a great start your diet, but that's not going to be enough. We're going to be working all day just to survive. So you're going to need some protein. So think about what animals you can use. Now, you can use, obviously, hunting animals. You got to think about how you're going to capture those animals. I'm just going to tell you right now, like just from my days of camping, you can't just most people are not master machete throwers. So just the idea of just throwing a machete, unless in your presentation you can prove to me that you are a master machete thrower, you're going to have to figure out some other way to capture those animals to get protein. That could also include the milk or the eggs of different species in your environment. Just kind of depends on what you have, because those are sources of protein from animals. All right. Water, perhaps maybe the most important resource. Making sure you're drinking fresh water, not salt water. We don't want anyone dying out there. Where are you going to get that? Where are you going to get that source? You probably want to have more than one source of fresh water. So think about where are you going to get water in your specific biome. So one of them might be rainfall, but some areas rain a lot, and some don't rain at all, and some only rain in the winter, and some only rain in the summer. It just kind of depends. So you got to figure that out. And then, of course, potential hazards about how, what you got to be careful of. Predators, poisonous animal or poisonous plants, potential hazards of the different organisms around you. Obviously, there's natural ones. Don't say I've fallen off a cliff. Those ones are pretty easy to avoid. Talk about other ones that might be hunting you, or ones you got to be careful about eating. So talking about plants and animals and why they're dangerous from you. Do you know why to avoid them? We want to know that you're going to be able to survive. Apologize if I'm going too fast. I'm not used to, as I'm normally on the set, I'm not used to making presentations. And then we want you to kind of be aware of kind of the environment you're working with. You're going to be surrounded by all kinds of different species. Do you know what kind of organisms and how they're interacting? There are 3 things here, which, hold on, I got to write down. There's something called mutualism, parasitism, and commensalism. You got to know what those things are and some example of those in your environment. And then finally, you're going to be working your way into the food chain, the food web of this environment. So, make sure you're aware what that could be. You're going to have an impact in there. If you start eating all the rabbits, what's that going to affect? So having an awareness of where you're impacting that environment's food chain. So I'm going to want to see do you know what that food chain is? And you can just use the organisms that you've already researched. You don't have to do brand new ones. All right. Now, I will say, when you are given your actual biome, which we'll have a separate document for that, and you'll be able to see that in a moment. Understand that we're going to give you an example of where you might be dropped. For example, if you're going to be dropped in the desert, you might be dropped in the Mojave Desert in the United States. But you can research it in terms of a general desert, or as in the example, the Mojave Desert. As of right now, we have an example of where we want to go drop for each location, but like I said, some of the other producers that are based on location producers are still trying to figure out some of those finer details. All right. And then your final reflection. This is a big one for us because we want to. This is where we get to know you a little bit. All right. We want to know, now that you looked at some biotic and abiotic factors of your biome, we want to know a little bit about what do you think is going to be the biggest challenge and why you think you have an advantage going forward. So just kind of learning about where you think your strength's going to be and where potentially your weakness, which is going to tell us that you're ready and you're thinking about those things. For your actual presentation, all right, it needs to be an audio and a visual presentation. It needs to have combined in together. Don't give us a soundtrack and some sort of visual thing separately. Put them together, just like this right here. You are looking at something and you are listening to something. All right. So based on your presentation, like I said, the producers and I are going to sit down and we're going to use this comprehensive breakdown, which if you click here, it just is all those things that I showed you before. It's just all together, including our final grading rubric on how we're going to judge on who we want to be. We want, obviously, people to be fan favorites and potentially win the show. We prefer people who are not going to die out there. So that's how we're going to assess it, is by estimating how many days of survival you'll have. Your visual thing could be all kinds of things. I want to leave that up to you. I gave a couple suggestions. You could make a vlog, just kind of going out there and talking a little bit about yourself, almost kind of like a selfie video. Some sort of video describing different things. You could create a website, some sort of infographic. Those are very popular these days. Or hey, if you got the artistic hand, go ahead and do that and add that somehow into it. Or combinations of these things. Maybe you draw a couple things of art, but you put them into a website. I gave you a couple of links, or they give you a couple of links here to kind of help on some suggestions, but they're not limited to that. If you're not sure, you can send it, and our communications producer, which I don't know why he's not doing this video, but no, I'll be on in a minute. All right, sorry. I gotta finish this up here. The audio component. Now, if you're making a video, that makes sense. You're talking. All right, but we want to hear you. All right, and so if you're not doing something that's intuitively audio as a component of it, like a vlog or something, then you're going to need to add something. You can use the program I'm using. It's free. If you have a Chromebook that come on them, it's something called Screencastify. It's a little tab up at the top right. And there's a little tutorial link that was set up for you here. So I think that's everything. All right, I think that's everything that they wanted me to cover. They don't give me any other paperwork here that shows anything else. But congratulations, contestant, on making it this far. Like I said, it's going to put us for 10 days, about 10 days. So that's going to put us about the May 19th or something like that. That you're going to have to complete this. Don't hesitate to email if you have any questions. Oh my goodness, I almost forgot to mention. Make sure you have your team. Obviously, you're communicating with your team. Whether, I know some, based on your application, you either applied by yourself, so a one-man team, or a two-man or a two-person team. Just work with your team. So you can work with one other person if that's obviously who you applied with. We have that list, but just make sure both your guys' names are on your final presentation. Otherwise, I got to get back to the set. I think that's everything. Just make sure you look over all the documents. Do everything you can. All right. Otherwise, good luck, folks. And, you could be on TV.